Okay, good morning everyone, and welcome to the University of Leicester's main event, Virtual Open Day. My name's James, and I work for the accommodation team, and I'm also a current student at the university. I've stayed in both the village and the city halls of residence, which you'll get to hear about in just a moment. I'm also joined by my colleague George today. So George, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is George, residential advisor in the University of Leicester student accommodation. I'm also a current student as well, completing my final year of my English degree. I look forward to hearing from you all and hopefully seeing you guys in the future.
Hello everybody, I'm Dan Flatt. I work in the Future Students Office. I may have seen you on some of the sessions already so far. I'm going to be working behind the scenes, taking any of your questions. So if any of you do have any questions, please do fire them in the Q&A chat box. I did study and live in the village as well. I lived in Beaumont Hall in Rocklands House, so I can hopefully answer some questions as well. But without any further ado, we'll get starting on the presentation.
Okay, so we have two main accommodation sites in the village and the city. Our village accommodation is located about 2 miles from the main campus in Oadby, and it takes around 15 minutes to travel to. And it's usually used by our travel bus service. The village is really popular with first year students because of its large amount of green spaces and the wide range of accommodations available. Our accommodation is split into 4 halls of residence. So there's Digby Hall, Beaumont Hall, Gilbert Murray and Stamford Hall, and John Foster Hall, with each of these halls of residence having their own distinctive features, a range of room types and prices. So here in the village, we're lucky enough to have access to the university's botanical gardens as well as lots of other green spaces to enjoy. The village also has its own sports centre, so there's no need to travel onto the main campus to use our sports facilities. We also have a residence life team that run events each week for the residents. So if you take a look at our social media pages, you'll be able to see the events, the calendar that we're running, including Netflix parties, scavenger hunts, etc. Our city accommodation is located closer to the main campus, and it takes around a 10-minute walk to get there. It's also more conveniently situated to travel into the city centre, the railway station, and other facilities, including the Daniel Brown Sports Centre and the library as well. In the city, the accommodation is split into 2 halls of residence, so we have Nixon Court and Opal Court. The rooms in these accommodations are mostly en suites and are all self-catered as well. Like our village accommodation, there is a separate residence life team based in the city accommodation that also runs social events for the residents. As a resident in the university accommodation, you're also able to travel to the village accommodation to use the facilities there, as well as taking part in the events that are provided. It can be quite difficult to choose which accommodation you think would best suit your needs, which is why we offer 6 basic types of room. These include standard single rooms, single with a wash basin, single ensuite, studio 1-bed flats, which include small, large and adapted options of all 3. You won't need to bring any furniture with you when you move into your rooms, as the rooms come with a bed, wardrobe, desk and chair, plenty of storage for all your belongings as well. Each accommodation also comes with Wi-Fi included. All of our new first year students are guaranteed an offer of a place in our university managed accommodation as long as they apply before the 1st of September. In this application process, you can apply for up to five different room types and location combinations. You can also apply for both the city and the village accommodation within this. So the room selection process is quite easy and shouldn't be anything for you guys to worry about. So when applying for your accommodation, there's a section which allows you to specify whether you prefer a single gender flat or a mixed gender flat, as well as any other requirements. Our accommodation team make every effort to match up requirements with the accommodation you're offered. So our accommodation portal is now live as well, so we're accepting applications. So if you've accepted an offer from the university which is unconditional or a conditional first choice, you can now apply on the portal. It can be quite difficult to choose which accommodation you'd like to apply for, and it really just depends on what you want. So the village is, like we said, is slightly further from campus, but it does have a reliable bus service, which only takes around 15 minutes. It's also easily commutable by bike, and some students do also decide to walk to campus when the weather is nice. If you have lectures at the business school, this is an even closer commute as well. Our village accommodation is exclusively for undergraduate students, with most first years deciding to stay there because it has a buzzing social life and there's lots of green space to explore. The village also offers a wide range of accommodation choices and the prices, meaning it's something to cater for everyone's needs and is a great place to settle into university life and make new friends. Similarly, the city accommodation is closer to campus than the village, and it's within a 10-minute walk of the main university facilities, including the library and the Daniel Brown Sports Centre. It's conveniently close to the city centre, so it's ideal for going into town, shopping in High Cross, or checking out some of Leicester's bars and restaurants. The city accommodation's purpose-built blocks are home to a mix of both undergraduates and postgraduate students. Don't worry, you'll only be put with other students of your year group. We do understand it can be quite difficult to choose accommodation, and you're more than welcome to get in touch with the accommodation team, who'll be happy to have a chat and guide you through the different options we have available. We're committed to providing accommodation to suit everyone's needs and have accessible accommodation at both the village and the city sites. Our accessibility department offers support and advice for students with dyslexia or specific learning difficulties, as well as working with students who have sensory disabilities, mobility difficulties, mental health conditions and autism as well. If you have a disability, medical or additional need, our dedicated accessibility service are here to discuss the requirements you have. They'll then liaise with your department and the accommodation team on your behalf so we can find the most suitable accommodation for you. During the accommodation application process, we do ask that you add a note to your application just to let us know that we should wait to hear from the accessibility team before allocating your room. Now that I've spoken about all the accommodation we have to offer, James is going to speak about our new approach to university accommodation if you'll be starting with us in September.
Okay. So if you'll be starting with us in September 2021, or even if you'll be in your second year or above by then, we're going to have some quite exciting new developments to our accommodation and the university campus. So in 2021, we'll be opening the first blocks of our new Freeman's Common student village, which is based in the city accommodation just next to the university campus. And the plans for this include residences for around 1,200 students, a cafe for both students and the community, a new multi-storey car park, and a teaching and learning centre, as well as a new whole site reception for the city accommodation, social spaces and lots of study areas as well. So the Freeman's Common Student Village will provide all our students with a welcoming new neighbourhood for students to live, study and socialise right next door to the main university campus. The new buildings will be set within an impressive landscaping scheme of walking routes, planting and gardens and large outdoor spaces, plus new pedestrian and cycling routes to better connect the accommodation with the university campus. So Freeman's Common will include a range of different types of accommodation to suit all our students from first year through to final year, helping more students in all years live in our accommodation with us and reduce the pressure on housing in the local area. So we'll have a few different types of room within the new student village. So we'll have townhouse style flats, which will be up to 12 people across multiple floors, and micro flats for around 4 students, which are perfect for returning students who maybe have a few others that they've met through their course or societies that they'd like to live with. And then we'll also have standard and premium ensuite options in flats of 6 to 10 students, and then studio and 1-bedroom flat options as well for self-contained living, with the studios being open planned, and then the 1-bedroom flats you'll have separate rooms for your living area, bedroom and bathroom. So by September 2021, we'll open the first 3 blocks of the Freeman's Common project. And the images here were taken quite recently to show you the progress of how they're doing right now. In October 2021, the new Teaching and Learning Centre will open, and then the whole student village will be ready in September 2022. So if you'd like to find out more about the project, then you can have a look at our university website for campus developments, which is on the screen now, to get a bit more information about what it's going to be like in September 2021. Okay, so we'll now go through any of the questions that were posted in the chat throughout the presentation. Please feel free to continue to post any questions as we go, and any questions that we don't get to by the end of this presentation, we will respond to them in the chat on Teams here. So please stay logged in after the presentation finishes if you've asked a question and we haven't managed to answer you yet. After the presentation, if you've got any other questions, then you can email our accommodation team anytime at accommodation@le.ac.uk, or for the rest of the main event today, you'll be able to contact us on the accommodation feed of the live chat on the university website. So now I'm going to hand back over to Dan, who's been having a look through all the questions to start on the Q&A.
Thanks very much, James, and also to George for your really informative session about all the accommodation. I can definitely attest that the accommodation at Leicester is absolutely brilliant. I had the best time there. We've had a couple of questions come in so far, but please do keep sending them in. The first one, the bus service from the village, is that uni supplied or is there a cost? And I will pass that to George, who will answer that question.
George, you're on mute.
Sorry, I don't know why I was on mute. Sorry about that. Anyway, as I was saying, so yes, there is a shuttle bus service that runs between the village campus and the main campus. It runs Monday to Saturday. The passes are £175 for the Monday to Friday pass and £195 for the Monday to Saturday pass. They run between up to 15 minutes between kind of 7 and 10 p.m. throughout the day, and you can use that as much as you want. So it's just the one fee, and you can use that throughout the whole year.
Thanks very much. Okay, so we've had a few more questions come in. Someone has said, what security service is provided at the accommodation? Are they a private company or university supplied? Are there 24-hour monitoring? I'll pass that over to James to answer that question.
Yeah, so we do have 24/7 security and a 24/7 site reception, both in the village and the city sites for our accommodation. And it's run by the university security team. So they're trained by the university and run through the university. So they can help you with an enormous range of different things, not just security, but they deal with well-being and things like that. And they'll come and help you if you need anything 24/7. And when you arrive in halls, we'll give you their contact details and our reception contact details as well. So you'll have 24/7 access to support and security while you're in halls of residence.
Fantastic. So we've had three questions which are kind of the same thing, asking about the costs of accommodation. I know you won't be able to give us the full price of every single room available, but would one of you be able to give us a bit of an overview on some of the costs and the range and where we can find those costs? I'll pass over to George for that.
Yeah, so most of the costs and things, you can find all the information about that on the website, on the accommodation portal, because obviously each accommodation does have a different price, depending if you were looking for a single shared bathroom or an ensuite. It really depends on what you're kind of looking for. But yeah, the range kind of is depending on that. It's kind of somewhere between kind of £90 to £100 upwards to nearer £160, £70, just depending on the room type. But to find all those kind of answers, it's definitely on the website because it depends on the space you're looking for.
Brilliant, thanks, George. Hopefully that helps. Definitely do check out the website for the full price lists. Someone wants to know, are meals provided? So maybe we can have a bit of an overview about that. I'll pass to James.
Okay, yeah. So we no longer have any catered accommodation at the university. We did used to have a catered meal plan, but now all of our accommodation is self-catered. But you will still find that food is served from the village hub at the bar in the village accommodation. And if you're in the city accommodation, then you're right next to campus and the city centre. So there's loads of places to go and get food there as well. But we don't directly provide any meals now for students living in halls.
Brilliant, thanks, James. So we've had another question come in about driving to university and parking your car. If you drive, are there places with car parks? And I will pass to George for that one.
Yes, so when I lived in halls in my first year, I also drove because I don't live too far from Leicester. So I brought my car every year that I've been at university. It's generally encouraged that you don't bring your car because there's no space to park on campus. So if you're travelling between halls and campus, there's no space to park. If you're living in city accommodation, there are also no parking spaces as well. So it's quite difficult to find any parking there. There are some parking spaces on the village campus. It is limited though. But generally, if you were to live in the village, you can bring your car. You do have to purchase a parking permit. They're usually around kind of £50 for the year. So it's not too much if you wanted to bring a car along, but again, it depends on how much you're looking to use it. So if you're not really looking to use it to travel, I would suggest maybe not bringing it because you can't really travel to campus with your car. But it kind of depends how often you might go home if you're kind of moving between home and uni quite quickly. So yeah, it kind of depends on that really.
Thanks, George. Someone has asked about the bills. Are all your different types of bills included in one price for your accommodation? Could we get a bit more of an overview from James, please?
Yes, so all the bills are included in your accommodation fee. So the price that you pay doesn't just include your room, but also obviously all the communal areas, so any shared kitchens, bathrooms and social spaces. Includes all your bills, so water, gas, electric, all that sort of thing, the usual utility bills, high-speed Wi-Fi in all the rooms as well. And it covers our team coming to repair any maintenance issues, regular cleaning of the accommodation blocks, and also our Residence Life programme, so you can get involved in a lot of events and activities and support services that are available in halls. And your accommodation fee covers all of that.
Thanks, James. Someone has asked, is there a virtual viewing for what the different rooms look like? Would you be able to give us a bit of an overview where we can find some virtual pictures or views of that? I'll pass to George for that.
Yep, so on the same website I mentioned a moment ago where you can look at all the prices, I think it's on the accommodation portal, which you can find on the university's website. There are lots of kind of 360 room tours. So in the breakdown of the different halls we have available, it'll give you the prices, the different kind of contracts we offer, and then there's 360-degree room tours, so you can kind of put yourself in the room and then just drag yourself around so you can get a feel for the kind of space that's available. There's lots of other photos as well, photos of students that have previously lived there, so you can kind of get an idea kind of how they might have decorated their room, so you can get a bit of a feel for what it might be like when you were to move into the room.
Thanks, George. Someone has asked, are there any benefits to the accommodation not being campus-based? I'm worried I'll feel isolated. I mean, I can tell you personally that you won't feel isolated because there are a lot of other students in the same boat as you. But I'll pass to one of the team. I'll pass to James to give you a bit more of an overview on that.
Yes, so our accommodation, as we said, is based in sites away from the campus in the village and the city. Although it's away from the campus itself, they are quite big sites. There's a lot of people there and there's a lot going on for students. There's a lot of student life going on and a big community. In the village, it's all one big site full of mostly first-year students, new freshers to the university, with all our social spaces, and we run lots of Residence Life events there so that you can get to know new people and get settled in, so that you won't feel isolated when you're here in accommodation. A lot of people do like it, having that separation away from the university campus as well, because it helps you to separate your kind of study life from your home life and social life away from campus. And similarly in the city, we've got the big tower block style buildings in Nixon Court and Opal Court. So there's a lot of people in those locations as well. And the same kind of social spaces and events and things at those sites too.
Great, thanks, James. Someone has asked, is it possible to stay in the new accommodation for more than 1 year and they stay in their second, third or fourth or fifth year as well? I'll pass to George for that.
Yeah, so lots of students actually, instead of choosing to move to private accommodation, they'll choose to stay with us, whether that's in the village or whether that's in the city accommodation. So if you've really liked living with us in halls, then you're more than welcome to stay for as many years as you want to. Lots of students, if they can't find other private accommodation, they'll choose to go back into halls. just because it's a great option, and obviously with bills included and everything, it's a really easy way to kind of live whilst you're at university. Lots of times the accommodation team will make kind of accommodations and exceptions as well. So if you made a load of friends in your first or second years and you wanted to stay in university accommodation but as a group, that can be arranged as well. So you can move into a flat together, and you can just kind of liaise that with the accommodation team. But yeah, so lots of undergraduate and postgraduates choose to stay in halls rather than move to private accommodation. That's not uncommon at all.
Brilliant, thanks, George. Someone says, do we need to book our accommodation before we land at the university? So would one of you be able to talk a bit more about booking the accommodation before coming to university? I'll pass to James for that one.
Yeah, so if you're coming to the university, you will need to book your accommodation before you get here, and make sure it's all booked in through our online portal where you make an application and we can make you an offer of accommodation. As long as you've applied before the 1st of September of your year of entry, then we will provide you with guaranteed accommodation in the university halls. So as long as it's before the 1st of September, you'll be guaranteed to get a room. Even after the 1st of September, we will likely still have some rooms available that we'll be able to offer you. It just might not be your first preference in your list. So you just need to make sure that you have done your application and got your offer of accommodation before you arrive in Leicester.
Great, thank you, James. Someone has asked, how close is accommodation to bus stops and train stations? I'll pass over to George for that one.
So we have the bus stops in the village. So the bus stops that are used for the university shuttle bus service to campus, they're all based around in the village, the different locations where the different halls are. For the kind of general city-based, Leicester city-based bus stops, they are also based, they're kind of in the close village campus as well. So those are the bus stops you can get to from the village. The train station is a bit closer, so that's in the city centre. So that's a short walk from the campus itself. So there's all kind of access to all of those. So you can either bus in or however you get to campus. And then from campus, you can either bus or walk over to the train station, which takes no more than 10 minutes from campus. So you can kind of get around really easily from either the village or the city into campus and then to the train station as well. That's really easy to do.
Thanks, George. So someone has asked, are there any convenience stores on campus or in the accommodation? I'll pass over to James for that one.
Yeah. So in terms of like supermarkets and things like that, next to the village accommodation, just about 10 to 15 minutes walk, there's a large 24-hour Asda store. And then similarly for the city accommodation, there's Morrison's, which is just round the corner as well. So you've got stores that are right next door to the accommodation, basically. So it's really easy to go and get food. And with the city accommodation as well, it's right next to the city centre. So you've got easy access to all the shopping centres and bars and restaurants and all that sort of thing in the city centre as well. And for those that are in the village, you've got the shuttle bus service, which will help you get into the city centre to campus. And then there's a short walk from campus down into the city centre.
Thanks, James. So with all the information you were talking about, the social distancing restrictions that are due to be in place due to COVID, do you expect that they will stay in place for the next year as well? Do you have any plans for those as well? I'll pass back to James for that one as well.
Yeah, okay. So obviously we do have quite a lot of restrictions in place this year, which you may have heard about and you'll be able to see on the university website. We don't know yet as to whether they will still be in place in 2021. It's a bit too soon to say for next year's entry, but we will continue to review the situation and inform all of our current students and applicants of any developments with that. But we do just have to wait and see, really, and follow the government advice.
Thanks, James. Someone has asked, is all the accommodation term time only, or is it also available in the holidays? I will pass to George for that.
Perfect. Yes. So the accommodation, when you've booked on and you're with us, your contract's all sorted. You can have it throughout the holidays. That's not a problem. So if you were to book onto a contract in the village, the contract's of 39 weeks, and that's from when you start in September through to kind of mid to late June, and you can use that at any point, so you can have that through the holidays as well. Lots of students do often choose to stay with us, especially if they're international students, over Christmas, and the Res Life team often runs different events and things over the Christmas period, over the Easter period, just to kind of accommodate for those things. But yep, you can absolutely stay in halls during the holidays. In the city, the contracts are 42 weeks, again, from the September kind of period through to around June when courses end. And again, obviously you can stay in the halls through the holidays, yeah.
Thanks, George. More questions coming in. They're coming in thick and fast. As a reminder, if we don't get through all of your questions, the team will stick around and respond to them. So do stay on the session at the end. Someone said, what are the rules about friends visiting both during and after COVID, if possible, please? I will pass to James for that one.
Yeah. So currently the rules in halls of residence for students that's starting this September. We've got our first arrivals today, actually coming into halls of residence. So for those students, we do have rules in place restricting visitors, so you won't be able to have visitors or guests into your flat, but you will have access still to all of our social spaces and communal spaces where you can meet other people in line with the government guidelines. Obviously, we can't currently comment about kind of after these restrictions start to be lifted and what will happen for next year's intake. It's just a case of we'll review it as time goes on and update the students and applicants when we have more information.
Great, thanks, James. Further questions are coming in. Can you request to be with other medics, for example, when you apply to accommodation because of similar workloads? Similar question as well. Someone asked about they're planning to come to the university with their friend, so can they live in the same flat? So I'll pass to George for that one.
Yeah, so in terms of the medics bit that was asked about, generally medics are put together in similar blocks and flats, like you said, due to the workload, and they generally start a bit earlier. So they usually we move them in and arrivals kind of the week before. So you guys can get to know each other as medics, as a group in your flats. So yeah, generally we like to put medics together. In terms of moving in with friends, I know for a fact that if you, as returning students, they often request to move in with friends, and that's not a problem. Usually that's the kind of thing that you would discuss with the accommodation team when you look to book your accommodation. So when you're using our accommodation portal on the website, you can kind of put requests and put notes in that you can query, and then our accommodation team are able to see those, and we can address those. So with things like friends, you could request that, and then the accommodation team will try and accommodate that for you. Or if you are kind of worried about that, you could always give us a ring at any point. The office is 24 hours, so if you have any questions kind of regarding that, you can always just let us know and we can try and sort that out for you.
Thanks, George. Just looking through the more questions now. I'm hoping to do a semester exchange at Leicester. What accommodation options are in this case? Are they the same as the full year students? I'll pass to James for that one.
Okay, yeah. So we've got a variety of different contract types on our application portal. So if you're staying just for a semester, there are those contracts available for study abroad students or Erasmus students that are coming over to study in Leicester just for a semester, and you will have access to all the accommodation options the same as anyone else would, just on that shorter contract length just for the semester. So you can still apply for any of the locations or room types that anyone else would be able to.
Thanks, James. My friend and myself are both coming to Leicester, but to two different unis. Are there any accommodation that they can share? Perhaps you could talk about some of the options available, not necessarily in university. George.
Yeah, so within Leicester, there's obviously lots of kind of private accommodation, private housing, private flats, some of which are kind of more towards the city. So obviously there's the De Montfort University, which is more based in the city centre. So there's lots of different private accommodation available. So you wouldn't necessarily have to live in university halls. You could live in private student accommodation or just general private accommodation, and that's not a problem. So that's something you'd have to kind of look at yourselves. If the De Montfort, they might also offer different student accommodation you can look at, but we wouldn't, in our halls, there aren't obviously any De Montfort University students living in ours. So you'd have to look at private accommodation, which is often nearer to campus, maybe in the city centre, but that's definitely an option you can look at, yeah.
Thank you. Someone said, my son's got a letter to study a master's of the course starting 11th of January. When will the accommodation be open, and what information is the university provided about the 14-day quarantine? So I'll pass to James for that one.
Yeah, so if you're starting in January of kind of this coming January, then the accommodation applications are open now. You can apply online on the accommodation portal for that. So you can make your application and we'll allocate you ready for when you're starting in January. That's fine. So we have sent out details to students about the international quarantine if you're coming from abroad. If you haven't applied yet, then you wouldn't have received that information yet, because we've only sent it to people that are holding offers for the accommodation. So once you have your accommodation offer, all that information will be sent through. But the general gist of it is that you will be provided with a flat, either your term time flat or a temporary flat, depending on where we can allocate you for the 14-day quarantine period. And that will be provided free of charge as long as you're on a semesterly or annual contract, which if you're coming from January up till the end of term 3, then you will be eligible for that. And we'll send you the information of how to book that quarantine period to line up with your arrival date in Leicester.
James, we've got time enough for one more question, which hopefully one of you will be able to help with. In our rooms, can we decorate it how we want? For example, put nails in the wall to hang things up or things like that. I will pass to George for that one.
Yeah, so in terms of decorating your rooms, you can generally decorate it how you want. There are a few kind of things that you'll go through when you do your induction, when you move into our student halls. With things like nails, we ask that you don't put nails in the wall and things like that. But kind of blue tack, that's not a problem. And we usually have kind of big notice boards as well and different pin boards in the rooms. And so they're really good to kind of decorate your room and put posters on, put photos on and things. What I'd suggest is you maybe have a look at the accommodation portal with some of the photos on and then some of the 360 views, just so you can get a feel of how some other students have chosen to decorate their rooms. So you get a bit of an idea of kind of what you might be able to do with yours, with different photos or posters, etc. But you can put things on the walls as well, yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Huge thanks to James and George for all of the information and responding to so many questions this morning. There's definitely been a lot of questions and we've been really happy to help you out on those. There are a couple more questions which the team will respond to. They will respond, they'll type the answers to those questions. So do hang on. If you've got a question still waiting, the team will be on hand to answer. If we haven't been able to answer your question, please do email us at accommodation@le.ac.uk. You can also talk to us on our main event live chats. So make sure you go back to the main event main page to find out more. Or you can chat to us at any point on le.ac.uk/chat. We hope you have a great rest of the day, and we really do look forward to welcoming you at the University of Leicester very, very soon. Thank you very much and have a great day.